Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down 3 really advanced Azure DevOps challenges, the kind of stuff that'll get you ready for that next big interview. We're not talking about the basics here. We're talking about the questions that really test your expertise.
So picture this. Your dream job is on the line. Can you answer these questions? Yeah, we're not talking about simple definitions you can just memorize. We're talking about those tough, real-world scenarios. The ones that really separate a good DevOps engineer from a great one. You ready? Let's jump in.
All right, here's our game plan for today. First up, we're going to cover handling pipeline secrets. Then, we'll talk about taming the monorepo. After that, we'll hit deploying to multiple environments. And finally, we'll wrap it all up in your pro-level toolkit.
Okay, let's kick things off with a big one, handling pipeline secrets. This is a classic security challenge, and trust me, how you answer this, it tells an interviewer everything about how seriously you take protecting sensitive data.
So, the interviewer hits you with this. How do you securely manage and version control secrets in a pipeline? This question is absolutely crucial. They're not just asking for a tool name, they're probing. They want to know if you truly understand the risks of just tossing sensitive stuff, database passwords, API keys, certificates, into a CI/CD process.
So let's break this down. You've got the risky way and the secure way. The risky way, and honestly it's pretty common, is just storing secrets right in your pipeline variables. The problem? Well, anyone with access can change it, right? Whether by accident or not, and poof, your pipeline breaks. The secure way, the professional standard, is to integrate with something like Azure Key Vault, where secrets are managed centrally, they're versioned, and everything is audited.
And that's where Azure Key Vault comes in. It's basically a cloud service for securely storing all that sensitive stuff. Think of it as your digital safe. You wouldn't leave the keys to your house just lying under the doormat, right? Your pipeline is the doormat. Key Vault, that's the actual safe where you lock things up, and only trusted folks or applications get the combination.
And you know what? The solution is surprisingly straightforward. It's just 3 steps. Step 1, you put your secret, like a database password, into the Azure Key Vault. Step 2, in Azure DevOps, you create something called a variable group, and you just link it to your Key Vault. And step 3, your YAML pipeline just references that group. That's it. The secret itself is never, ever in your code.
And here's the mic drop moment for your interview. The crucial point is that the secrets are managed completely outside your code. You've created a single source of truth that's secure and maintainable. That's the answer that screams senior engineer. All right, on to our next section, taming the monorepo. This is all about building only what you need. It really follows that theme of efficiency, right? It's all about working smart, not just hard, especially when you're dealing with those massive shared code bases. So here's the question. In a monorepo with multiple microservices, how do you build only the service that has changed? This is a fantastic question because it tests your ability to optimize your CI/CD pipelines. Think about it. You've got this one giant repository with tons of different services. The last thing you want is to rebuild the entire universe every time someone fixes a typo in one small service. It's just a massive waste of time and compute resources.
And a typical structure looks kind of like this, right? You've got folders for microservice A, microservice B, and so on, maybe each with its own pipeline YAML file. A change in service A should not trigger a build for service B. So how do you teach your pipeline to be smart enough to tell the difference?
Well, the solution is actually really elegant. It's called path-based triggers, and it's just this tiny, powerful little block of YAML code that you pop into each microservice's pipeline file.
So what does this little snippet do? It's brilliant. It just tells Azure DevOps, hey, only run this pipeline if a change gets pushed to the main branch, and that changes inside the microservice B folder. Simple as that. You're creating pipelines that are smart, efficient, and only wake up when they absolutely need to.
All right, our final challenge, deploying to multiple environments, the dry approach. This one tackles a huge problem of scale and maintainability. As things get bigger, how do you manage deployments to dev, then staging, then prod, without creating an absolute maintenance nightmare? And interviewers love this question. How do you deploy to dev, staging, and prod without copying and pasting your pipeline code? Why do they love it? Because it gets right to the heart of a core engineering principle. Don't repeat yourself, or, dry. They want to see if you can think in terms of scalable, maintainable systems. Because just copying and pasting, well, that's a recipe for disaster.
The solution, the key to the whole dry approach in Azure DevOps, is templates. A template is just a reusable component. It could be steps, jobs, whatever, that defines your common pipeline logic. You define your deployment steps once, and then you just reuse that logic for every single environment. It's the perfect way to centralize everything.
And it's really a combination of three things that makes this so powerful. First, you've got your templates for the reusable logic. Then you use variable groups. Hey, just like we did for secrets, to hold all your environment-specific stuff, like the dev database URL versus the prod one. And finally, you use parameters to pass those variables into the template at runtime. It's like a recipe with interchangeable ingredients.
And check out the difference. Before, you're trapped in this repetition nightmare. You've got one giant 200-line YAML file where everything for dev, staging, and prod is just copied and pasted. Ugh. But after, you have a clean, maybe 20-line YAML file that just defines the stages and calls a single reusable template. It's a total game changer.
Okay, let's wrap this all up. We've covered a ton of ground, so let's put it all together into a handy toolkit you can take with you. Think of this as your cheat sheet. The challenge? Secret sprawl. The flawed approach? Hard-coding them in variables. The pro solution? Azure Key Vault plus variable groups. Next, the mono repo mess. The bad way? Building everything on every commit. The pro solution? Path-based triggers. And finally, the repetition trap. The flawed approach is copy-pasting code. The pro solution? Templates and parameters. Nail these, and you're demonstrating true mastery. And look, these aren't just clever answers for an interview, right? These are fundamental patterns for building systems that are robust, scalable, and actually maintainable. The goal isn't just to get the job, it's to be the engineer who builds things the right way.
So there you have it. You've got the toolkit. The only question left is, what are you going to build with it? That's it for this explainer. Thanks for tuning in.